For most people, a car is just a tool to get from point A to point B. But every once in a while, something hits the market that forces you to have an opinion. The Tesla Cybertruck is one of those vehicles. When it was announced, millions of people put down deposits. But today, you're more likely to see Cybertrucks piling up on dealer lots than on the road. Tesla projected 250,000 sales per year. They've sold just 16,000 so far in 2025, over 90% below projections. And when you look at what's happening inside Tesla, things get even stranger. Executives are jumping ship, creative accounting is hiding the real numbers, and thousands of Cybertrucks are mysteriously being purchased by other Elon Musk companies. Let's figure out what's really going on here. The Cybertruck was unveiled in 2019, rolling onto stage looking like it hadn't finished rendering, and immediately the promises started flowing. Ultra-hard stainless steel exoskeleton from SpaceX's Starship, over 500 miles of range, bulletproof body panels, special armor glass that would be completely impenetrable. Remember the demonstration? Oh my God! Well, maybe that was a little too hard. But the promises didn't stop there. Elon claimed the Cybertruck would be able to swim and cross rivers, lakes, and even seas that aren't too choppy. After years of pre-orders, what Tesla actually delivered was vastly different. The $39,000 price tag became over $60,000, the 500-mile range became 320, and that swimming promise? Let's just say the results were predictably hilarious. Within weeks of release, the problems started. Accelerator pedals getting stuck, body panels falling off on highways, windshield wipers randomly failing, multiple recalls for safety issues. The vehicle was banned in the UK, Australia, and the entire EU because it's considered too dangerous. Meanwhile, competitors like Ford, Chevy, and BYD launched EV trucks that actually work like normal trucks. But here's where it gets interesting. It's not just customers who've lost faith. Tesla's own leadership is abandoning ship. The lead of the entire Cybertruck program quit. The Model Y program lead quit. Tesla's VP of Sales for North America left in July. Their senior VP of Energy Engineering also departed in 2024. These are people with front-row seats to Tesla's financial data, people who've been committed to these projects for years. When leadership starts fleeing, that tells you something about what they're seeing behind the scenes. And despite all this, Tesla has been resorting to what can only be described as desperation tactics to move their Cybertruck inventory off the books. To understand what's happening with the Cybertruck, we need to look at another Elon Musk property, Twitter. In 2022, Elon bought Twitter for $44 billion. He tried extremely hard to back out of the deal, but a judge forced him to follow through. He paid partially out of pocket and borrowed from nearly 100 investors. Since then, Twitter lost an estimated 70% of its value. But here's where the financial engineering comes in. Another Musk company, xAI, bought Twitter, but not with cash. xAI created new shares out of thin air, declared them worth $45 billion, and used those shares to buy Twitter. Anyone holding devalued Twitter shares got them swapped for supposedly more valuable xAI shares. No actual cash changed hands. Since Elon controls both companies, he could decide the exchange rate. Conveniently, he picked $45 billion, slightly more than what was originally paid. This is Elon's favorite strategy. In 2016, Tesla acquired SolarCity, run by Elon, his brother, and cousins for $2.6 billion. SpaceX has invested billions into xAI and Twitter. Money moves in circles, and somehow, Elon ends up ahead. And now, the Cybertruck is getting the same treatment. Here's the situation. Nobody wants Cybertrucks, but Tesla can't just stop the assembly line. They've got obligations, targets, and investors to please. The result? Cybertrucks piling up in disused parking lots across Michigan because Tesla literally has nowhere else to store them. But then, surprise! Two major clients suddenly appeared, desperate to buy thousands of Cybertrucks, SpaceX and xAI. In late 2025, SpaceX started taking delivery of hundreds of Cybertrucks at Texas bases. Truckloads also showed up at xAI offices. Given how few sell annually, this represents a huge chunk of total Cybertruck sales. A Cybertruck engineer claims this was always the plan, but I think there's another explanation. Remember, Tesla isn't really a car company anymore. About 40% of their profit used to come from selling government-issued carbon credits to other automakers. That was basically free money. But the current administration scrapped those programs. They also ended the $7,500 federal discount for EV buyers, which created a temporary spike in Q3 that made Tesla look like it was recovering. It wasn't. Here's the key part. In 2022, the U.S. created the Commercial Clean Vehicle Credit. Businesses buying eligible EVs could get up to $40,000 in tax credits per vehicle. This credit was killed by the current administration with a deadline of September 30th, 2025. Notice anything? That's suspiciously close to when Cybertrucks started appearing at SpaceX and XAI. There's also a provision. If you pay a deposit before the deadline, you can claim the tax break even without receiving the car yet. So, here's what's really happening. SpaceX and XAI are buying Cybertrucks to boost Tesla's sales numbers while claiming massive tax breaks before the deadline. The money moves in circles between Musk companies. He gets millions in tax savings with no obligation to actually deliver the vehicles anytime soon because he paid a deposit to himself. It makes sales look better, creates tax savings, and very little actual business needs to happen. This isn't new behavior. For years, Elon's companies have been placing huge orders from each other and bailing each other out. SpaceX spends millions annually on Tesla products. His companies acquire each other constantly. To be clear, some of this makes sense. Tesla makes electronics that could be useful for rockets, but are Cybertrucks really the single best vehicle for building spaceships? Especially when literally nobody else wants them and they're not showing up at NASA launch sites? Elon's hardly alone in these circular funding tactics. OpenAI is the boss-level version, people moving trillions in elaborate circles to convince everyone they'll somehow make loads of money. There's a phrase for that, but we'll leave it unsaid. The Cybertruck is officially joining the graveyard of failed Elon promises. The Tesla Roadster, the Hyperloop, full self-driving, and dozens more. Tesla has alienated much of their prime demographic. Even neutral buyers now avoid the association. The real state of the company is rough, and it gets worse when you realize these numbers are after extensive massaging to look as good as possible. But here's the thing. Tesla has always operated this way. They've relied on corporate welfare and investor hype to stay afloat. What's different now is even that wasn't enough to save the Cybertruck. And Tesla knows this. That's why they're desperately pivoting away from cars entirely. Now it's all about robotics and AI.